All right, we should be good. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm your host, TruthSeekah. This is the TruthSeekah podcast. Today, my guest is Ark from the hip hop group and ministry, Destiny Lab. Ark, what is up, my friend, brother? Welcome.
What is up? What is up, man? Thanks for having
Uh,
me on again.
good to have you, man. Yeah, we did a talk a year ago. I think it was April 7th. I looked it up. It was like April
It's been
7th.
that long? Time
Yeah,
flies.
yep. And here we are again, a year later. We covered a lot of ground: Nephilim, fallen angels, mysticism, real angels, or angels that haven't fell. All that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
had a good discussion. And here we're back for a part two. Um, some of the stuff that you've talked about that you've been researching, talking about the third eye,
hmm
um, and some newspapers from like the 1800s and stuff like that.
Yeah.
New, and we got to kind of preface this a little bit too, because we know that we're dealing with the algorithms and buzzwords and stuff like that we want to try to be sensitive to. With everything that's going on in the world, there were some interesting things that you found, and I don't know how much we'll get into that, but did the third eye tie into that as well?
No, not necessarily. That was
Okay,
just, some other information I found, back in the
okay,
1920s. So,
great, okay. So what was it about the third eye? I told you, like, I have a video on the third eye I did a long time ago, and I called it the third eye in the Bible, and obviously
mhm.
it's polarizing, but it just kind of took that and just kind of just looked at the mind's eye, having the mind of Christ, renewing the mind, and obviously
Mhm.
just tied that in with the third eye. We know that's a buzzword as
Yeah,
well, kind
yeah.
of thing. People are looking into it. So from a Christian perspective, like for the Christians, just to kind of be maybe open to something a little bit more, and then for the people who aren't Christians to be like, how do I have peace of mind?
Yeah.
How do I quit seeing things that are, tormenting me? How do I turn this stuff off and those kind of things? So I just brought that to the conversation. But it was definitely all about renewing the mind, the third eye, and Christ
hmm
consciousness and those kind of terms. Obviously polarizing, obviously not terms that are in the Bible, but you have similar concepts. But you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
most Christians approach this from, scary, demonic, like the third eye is demonic. Like whether it's your pineal gland, it's something inside of you that if it's activated or turned on, it is demonic. So what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I don't think that at all. I mean, I think God created us with something they call the pineal gland. That's
Mm-hmm.
something that people have attached a name to, and it's just an interesting subject to study of the human body. The our body is the temple, and we are to take care of our bodies. And I don't think Satan has created anything inside of our bodies. So to act like Satan has reign over some specific part of our body, I think is non-biblical. And I think we are have a sin nature. We are a fallen nature where we do things that we don't even want to do. Why? That's the big question. Why do we
Yeah.
do the things that we know are wrong?
Mm-hmm.
And why can't we stop doing those things we know are wrong? And that's kind of, I think, the question that every religion wants to ask,
Mm-hmm.
and answer that question. And so to me, I'm just interested from the pineal gland of trying to look for universal overlaps and try to really dig into the historical narrative of it, and
Mm-hmm.
find out, who was first talking about this? Why is this something that seems to overlap different cultures? How did they know about this? I just think all these things are like extremely interesting.
Yeah.
There are definitely a lot of groups and new age type of uh, belief systems that talk about activating the third eye, all these things, and I find those things as interesting as well. I don't necessarily agree with everything they're saying by any means, but I've got questions,
Mm-hmm.
and that's for me. I just want to dig in and answer these questions. And I find that when you go back, we originally started, my brother and I, he had started a site called Old Newspaper Stories on Facebook. And originally we were looking into old stories about giant bones and the fact that people back in the early Americas were finding these giant mounds, and when they dig into them, they'd find these like 10-foot, 12-foot skeletons. And every single time in these stories, it ended with, And the Smithsonian came and hauled them away for study, and they were never seen again. So that's where it kind of started, is investigating those stories. And what we found is, all about 20 years ago, basically, the United States started digitally archiving all of these old newspaper stories, which were originally just available on microfiche libraries, that you could go to the library and fish through thousands of articles, but there's no way to search a certain specific keyword. They've now created algorithms where they've read read the script of all these newspapers, and you can actually now search up keywords. So you can actually search for specific things and find articles that have not been read or shown publicly for 100, 200 years. So this is a really interesting archive of things. And so I started looking up things like the pineal gland, things like, some of these obscure subjects. And I found some incredible information that just blew my mind. Very eye-opening, no pun intended. So, but yeah, we can get into that.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, I didn't, plan on showing this, but this is something that I recently bought. This is from a magazine called the Gentleman's Magazine, printed in 1795. And I do collect as much as I can ancient artifacts and a lot of old books and those things. And been doing a lot of studying on the Nephilim and on the giants and the fallen angels and their children and offspring that continued probably to this day, to be mixed in with humanity and those things. And so I found this picture, which is from the 1700s, but it's kind of hard to make out, but it's a picture of a Knights Templar right here.
Yeah.
And then this being like some kind of a cat animal with a human head, and it's showing it like tied to a stump, and then I don't know if it's morphing or they cut its head off, like in steps, and so or they let it die and then cut its head off. But this was originally drawn in the 1300s, but it was printed in Gentleman Magazine from the 1700s, and so this is a snippet, and there's a write-up on it on the other side. But like, been doing so much research on the beings that existed that, like you said, the Smithsonian, but it goes way before that, where they're like, hold on, let's erase their memory off of the planet, these giants, these mixture beings, these magical creatures. Where I approached this from not so much of a scary demonic side is an interesting place now, where like, hold on, like not all of these creatures were bad. Like some of them chose to be good. Some of them, and there's so much in the Bible about them being servants in Solomon's temple. Like God saying, okay, because you repented and because you guys are choosing good, I'm going to give you a new name, and I'm bringing all of you scattered strangers, and now you could be servants in the temple. And so these were these type of creatures, and we know the idea of like Solomon, using working with demons to build the temple kind of thing. But these were like hybrid entities that were mixed with animals and humans and animals and gods, and it adds so much more to the story. And I think what is really interesting for me is that they weren't all bad now. In our mind, when we hear Nephilim or we hear mixture or half-breed, you're bad. Like, and then there was all of these, like the Knights Templar, which were the Templars of Solomon's temple, went on this crusade to run all of them out of the temple and to kill them all, and to go on journeys all throughout the world, hunting them down like monster hunters, Van Helsing, and killing them and erasing their memory. And just like what you just said, 1920s and the Smithsonian, like covering up their existence, also to cover up the fact that, we put out mandates and we went and killed these innocent beings, if you will. So that's where I've been a lot of study, honestly. But I know that ties in with your stuff too, right?
Yeah, I haven't investigated the tie into Solomon's temple and the any positive means. I'm not aware of that, so I'd definitely be interested in hearing more about that. But it is interesting how the Bible describes certain angels. There's not just angels that look like humans.
That's what I'm getting to for sure.
Okay, yeah, the crazy descriptions,
mixtures, right?
of animals, humans, of eyeballs, spinning rows of eyes, all this stuff, and then it's interesting that if you do look at what Satan seems to want to do, he wants to manipulate DNA. He wants to take these things that God did. He manipulated our DNA. He created us. He allows these things to happen, but God is in control. Satan wants to make a counterfeit version of that, but I don't think Satan actually creates anything. He just takes things that God has already created and then attaches inverted beliefs and masqueraded deceptions to it. But if you go back deep, you'll find that these things were originally a lot of times things that were not necessarily evil. They were things that were done for good. Like you talk about the astrology thing, I don't know. I know astronomically, the Jews were studying, the astronomy and all the way the signs and the things that we can get through studying the stars and the movement of the planets and all these things. And the Bible talks specifically about this, that this is something important to study and that God does speak to us through these signs. So that's not a negative thing, but then
when you invert it, right?
Exactly. There are inverted versions of it that point in opposite directions. So that's where it's a fine line. Same thing with, I'm into creating, I started as a special effects makeup artist. So I've always created creatures, and I know you're into that.
I'm not.
I'm joking. But we got to have a similar version of it's almost in a way illustrating the absurdity by being a little absurd yourself, kind of like C.S. Lewis did with the Screw Tape Letters, coming from a demonic perspective.
I wonder how controversial that was at the time.
Yeah, that's a good question. It had
to be, right? Like,
I would think so.
Because he's almost channeling the devil. I mean, you could definitely call it that. Of like, how do you know he would say that kind of thing? Because there's some really precise tactical stuff, man. It's really deep.
Yeah, and that's not a calling for everyone. I think people, specifically are different parts of the body, and if that's not something that you feel related to, or you feel maybe in endanger your own walk with God, maybe it's not something you want to study. So it's I think there's different people called for different things, and 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 we're all part of the body of Christ, and there are definitely deceivers out there, no doubt, but I think that God works in mysterious ways, and a lot of times we don't fully understand those things. So
if I guess let's I've totally approached the third eye from a biblical perspective, just as far as the mind's eye, taking guard over your eye, making sure you think about lovely things, right? You feel your mind would jump. Then and somebody shared a scripture here, and this is one we always go to with third eye. It says Matthew 6:22, if your eye be single, then your body shall be full of light. And they said it's the pineal gland, the third eye, because there's a lot of talk about a singular eye kind of thing, right? If your eye, not your eyes, but your eye. Right. And so obviously the connotation with the heart and in the mind, right? Or your mind's eye kind of thing. Whether we want to say it's the third eye or whatever, it's just, be mindful about what you're thinking of, like renew your mind, transform your mind, those things. And I think that ties in with, for me, the third eye is simply, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and it's something that is God-given within your anatomy to tap in, to sense spirits around you, to see into the spirit world, to have it, pure, that you can able to judge and to discern in those things. It can be used for good or bad, right? We can see angels or we can see demons and those things. So there was a right way and a wrong way to do everything. But how have you seen some of the more occultic, some of the more nefarious means that people are trying to hijack other people's third eye,
Yeah.
influence through media, television, or does it get more like far out and sinister than that, than just something exoteric on the outside that has inward implications or something?
Yeah, I mean, I've come to the conclusion that, at least from my belief system, that the third eye is kind of like an antenna,
Yeah.
and that it basically can be tuned into through frequency or type of, spiritual spiritual wavelength or something we don't fully understand. But it can be, like you said, used for good and bad, just like fire can be used to keep you warm or burn you. I mean, there's lots of things like that that are in our existence that can be used, like I said, been hijacked or can be hijacked. So, but going back to the oldest things I found back, like Galen, he was writing about the pineal gland way back in like 129, 200 AD, and his writings were supposedly wrote off even more ancient writings that he was copying. So obviously they've been studying this stuff for a long time. And the name pineal comes from pine cone, which a lot of people think that it's because the pineal gland looks like a pine cone. Well, digging a little deeper, it's actually the pine nut. The nut within a pine cone is what I believe they're speaking of, because I think the pine cone represents kind of like the universal what's that, Fibonacci sequence. Yeah. And the pine nut represents kind of our mind's eye inside that perfect creation of Fibonacci sequence type of creation. Because if you look at a pine nut, it looks exactly like a pineal gland. If you look at a pine cone compared to a real pineal gland, they really don't look a lot. I mean, I guess they're kind of somewhat in shape, but yeah. I think they're referring to a pine nut. But anyway, that's neither here or there. The going back in more ancient things, like you look at Rene Descartes in 1590s, he was talking about this and actually talked about the what they call brain sand that they found inside the pineal gland, that there was crystals inside the pineal gland, and people talk about this being the calcification of the pineal gland and things like that. I'm not sure that's fully understood. I think part of these crystals in there are supposed to be there, and they, like a liquid crystal, can change shape. And just like a crystal radio, crystal radios are tuned into frequencies strictly through a crystal. I mean, crystals literally do carry frequencies and receive frequencies. And I believe that's what's going on inside the pineal gland in some sort of misunderstood way. And if you go back to the really ancient people, they were doing some weird experiments where they would actually do experiments on live people, and digging things in their head or whatever on people that were prisoners or whatever. They were doing some creepy experiments. And I think that ancient world did a lot of that, more than we understand. Think, how would the Egyptians know what the pineal gland looks like? Well, they were mummifying people and dissecting bodies left and right. So and if you know about one other thing about the pineal gland that's interesting is it's not actually part of the brain. It's in between the two halves of the brain, but it's not actually connected to the brain at all. And it is literally like an eye. And some lizards and things actually, you can see the on top retina of their, they have a retina. They have actually looks like an actual closed eye on top of their head, and it receives light. And and if you go back and look at all these other overlaps, like the red dot of the Hindu, the Ash Wednesday of the Catholics, putting on that on their forehead. You go back to the Egyptian, the cobra coming out of the forehead, or the beehive, and this is, the Jewish rabbis, when they pray, a lot of them will have a black box on their forehead, tefillah. And it actually, I believe might go back to something regarding the third eye. I don't know. And then you go back to people that were doing head binding and practicing trepanation, where they're actually drilling holes in the skull. And you look into the people, they're actually more recent people trying this back in like the 70s. There's probably people still doing it, kind of a new age occult kind of belief, where they believed that the soft spot in a baby in their skull actually gave them direct access to the spiritual realm and to the source. And as that skull closes, that you lose that direct access to the spiritual realm. And so they believed if they drilled a hole in their head and let air and light and into their head, that actually they would then be, evolved or higher consciousness of some sort. And there's a lot of people, if you look online, they're actually practice this.
It's crazy.
Well,
I know they used to. I don't know if that's the one of the words that you mentioned a while ago, but like they would drill holes in your head if they thought you had like evil spirits in you, to let the spirits out if the spirits were trapped in your head. Yeah.
Totally. I mean, and it was probably both. It's probably people that actually had injury and swelling on the brain where they were drilling holes in their head. And it was, I think, a lot of, just like you said, people that had maybe mental illness or even demonic issues going on, and they didn't know how to deal with it. And so they drill holes in their head to let those entities out.
Yeah.
And that's been something that's kind of been passed down. They actually still do this in Africa. You can watch videos of them drilling holes in people's head and doing this. The other thing that's interesting about the crystal type thing is it has it conducts electricity. There's a piezoelectric effect that happens within the pineal gland as well. And that's another thing that's very interesting. Let's see here. So I started digging into these old newspapers, like I said, and I found stories going way back into the 1700s talking about the pineal gland. One of them was really weird because it talked about a thing called philosopher's snuff, and it was written by a guy named Francis Hopkinson. And he claimed that he had came across a group of learned men, like a secret society, that was using something they called philosopher's snuff. And back in the 1700s, snuff was a very popular thing. People used snuff, and they would pass this amount among the elite and the people involved in governments and whatnot as gifts, as they would give snuff away. And anyway, there was a thing called philosopher's snuff that they claimed would allow you to transport your mind and have an out-of-body experience and enter the pineal gland of anybody you chose to enter. And in so doing, understand their whole entire history and memories. You would instantly know their memories, and that this would be like some sort of way to access information, and that this group of learned men was using this to get inside information type of thing. So that was very interesting stuff, storyline that I found back from 1776. Then I got into studying, looking for more things I looked in the third eye, the pineal gland, all these things. And I found a really interesting connection back to Theosophy, and Theosophy being the doctrine of Helena Blavatsky, who was basically a Russian occultist who gathered information from all over the globe. She went, to the Freemasons, she went to the Hindus, she went to all different, Gnostics, all different groups and categories of mystery schools and occult beliefs, and brought them together under the Theosophical belief system, and then started writing books under a publisher called the Lucifer Publishing Company. And she talked about Lucifer being, the light bearer, and it was a positive thing. And then they eventually changed that Lucifer Publishing Company to the Lucis Trust, which is still around today and part of the New World Order type of paradigm of my belief system. They're connected to the United Nations and whatnot. But I found a really interesting thing connecting the third eye with Theosophy. So if I can share a story here real quick. I'm going to bring this up, and let me see if I can do a shared screen or not.
It may work on here. It may mess up on the way that I'm doing it through OBS though.
Host disabled share screen. Okay, we don't have to. I mean, it just shows a picture of it if you want to, but
I don't think it's disabled.
Okay, now it's not. Okay. Yeah.
I just gotta make sure it's gonna show up on OBS when we do it. I think it will. Maybe. Okay. Should be good.
Okay. So you see that? See this picture here? This guy. Can you see that on the screen?
I see all of your pictures.
Oh.
Maybe share a different screen, like once you open it or something.
Yeah, I got.
What you got? It's like you got like an old operating system with the
Probably.
green number
No.
munches and.
No, I just changed my colors to
There you
that
go.
so I can see it easier.
Yeah.
But
it's a Linux.
yeah, there you go. It's an old Apple. Okay, can you see that or not?
Not anymore. You're not sharing anymore.
Oh, okay. Dang. Okay. Well, I may just have to explain it, but
Okay.
the basically this just shows a picture of a dude that's like 33 feet tall, it says, and that he kind of a wink nod to the theosophical belief system. And okay, see that?
Yes.
Okay, so you see this picture of this guy,
Yeah.
33 feet tall, and these are the regular people below that aren't evolved. And so, and it goes into the story, and it says 33 feet tall will be an average height, 3 eyes for human beings, and the vulgar clothing of present day will be discarded in the new utopia. The doctrine of Theosophy has become sponsor in a very startling theories and ideas. William Q. Judge, the distinguished and assertive Theosophist of New York, has some very pronounced views upon the sixth race. So I don't know if you've heard about the coming of the fourth race, the fifth race, the sixth race, and these different versions of races that they believe are going to evolve over time. But its appearance and characteristics, he says, that will be the men will be 33 feet in height, and they will wear no clothing. The Theosophists believe that America will see the first development of the sixth race because they're gathered people from all nations of the globe. So again, the one world kind of belief system. The amalgamation of different people here is more complete. It is held the preparations for the coming of the new race has been going on for some time. Mr. Judge thinks that the first batch of the new race will be looked upon as being eccentric, cranky, and abnormal, but that they soon will be in the majority. Kind of seems like what we're dealing with today. People, the elite, that are kind of have these crazy ideas, and the woke generation. They say that the first race was not divided into men and women, and that individuals had 2 spinal cords. And at the sixth race, when the race is approaching the perfection upon the globe, individuals will again have 2 spinal cords, which I believe may be talking about the Kundalini spine that will be, they believe to be activated. It's also connected to Theosophy. In the seventh race, sex will disappear altogether. So, is this connected to the idea of, the trans movement? I believe the trans movement is not about making men women and women men. It's about making humans non-human, kind of this androgynous kind of alien, being that doesn't have sex at all, but just uses science and technology. But it says they will appear in luminous atmosphere, personal to themselves, discarding trousers, waistcoats, shoes, frocks, and bonnets. The men will have no beards, so we're going to be out of luck. They'll have fine, noble features and thin, silky, flowing hair. Individuals will live to be 1,000 years old. And while their stature of the coming race will be enormous, it will weigh a little more because the matter in which it is much more refined. Indeed, all matter will be much more refined, and the specific gravity of the individual will be nearly what is present. Much grossness will be eliminated. And they get into the grossness of regular people, and that regular people will have to be eliminated. When the sixth race reaches its highest development, there will be remnants of the present race running around in feeble wretchedness. So that's how it describes the regular people that don't take part in this. And he says the 33-foot men are walking about in joyous dignity and happy in the possession of their perfect Greek beauty and third eye. These miserable remnants of ourselves will be crawling about in enormous heads on thin bodies, or with tiny nutmeg heads on fat pumpkin bodies and toothpick legs, while the sixth race grows higher and nobler and more beautiful. The remnant of the fifth race will sink lower and lower. So that's one of the first stories that I found that kind of like opened my mind to, okay,
and they're talking about this. So what magazine is that from? Is that from something from the Theosophical Society or?
No, this is a newspaper article from, I have to pull up another screen here. It's a newspaper article from like 1906 or something like that. And
So do you think? So you think that's like them trying to welcome back the giants of old? Is that something like that, or
I don't know. That's what I found. This is the Morning Call San Francisco Chronicle, 1894 is when that came out. And I'm not sure that's what's interesting about it. What are these universal overlaps? Why are they trying to tie in the third eye into giants? Well, if you look into this is where I found a connection. So this is something from, I found several different articles, one from 1896 talking about the development of the third eye, again, tying it into this, outside knowledge or secret knowledge. But then I found people talking about how babies were being grown into giants when their pineal gland had a tumor on it. Manly P. Hall actually talks about this in one of his talks, where he talks about that a baby was born that turned into a full-grown man, and not only grew into a man within only 6 months of being a baby, but had the understandings and abilities of a full-grown man. So in that way, he believed that consciousness and understanding was not necessarily about learning it and time passing, but about how big you were and how, and that you grew as a full-grown man, then you would have the brain of a full-grown man in some way. So
Benjamin Button.
there you go. There you go. So
let me play the devil's advocate for a minute with some of this stuff and some of the stuff that you've been putting out for years and I've been putting out, and something that's just like that people are drawn to, right? The devil's advocate being the fact that we're exposing the occult, right? We're exposing that which is hidden, these hidden societies, secret societies that we've had to kind of study, right? That it has to, you have to really train your eye, right? Your eye to see these things, that it's a world within a world that is not privy to the majority of these little people here seen in these pictures, the regular people, that they were, you almost have to be initiated to of hours and hours of research, of hours and hours of books and all of that stuff to really find out what's going on. And then, so here's the devil's advocate of, and I would, we just look at it for whatever, that now we are sharing this occult means hidden. We're sharing hidden information with the masses who would otherwise be ignorant to these things, and it would be in a state of bliss because they don't know that, they're, I don't want to even say this stuff, just, let your mind wander all of the theories out there that we know, or secret rituals or secret lives or whatever of the Freemasons and these kind of things, like, but now we are the occult teachers. Now we are sharing the occult with people who didn't have to even worry about that. You see what I'm saying? Like Christians trying to expose it and then become teachers. Let me show you the Illuminati ritual of the Super Bowl, and we've got it mapped out. See how he's standing here with one hand. Hear this song. Here's the isolated lyric. We've become masters of the occult as in the means of exposing, though. We're trying to show you what they're doing. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I think definitely, back in these 1800s, early 1900s, a lot of stuff was definitely guarded and secret, but they actually were talking about it as well in these stories. So in one way, they were more open about it in newspapers, but it was still secret knowledge because not everybody was reading all of these papers or had access to all this information. Now that we're in a world where everything is shared and you can have access to anything and everything at the touch of a button, I think it's shifted to where the occult being like you said, the original word just basically mean hidden. And I know that people have their own idea of what occult means and think that's just evil. And I think that's just like the word evolution, where it means different things to different people, you know, or religion means different things to different people. You know, it sounds like it's kind of a catchword, but yeah, if it's just based on hidden information, we are externalizing these things. And in my mind, externalizing these things to the point where it's no longer secret allows people to, you know, no longer be fence sitters. You can now see this stuff maybe so clearly that you can now say, oh, okay, I can see how this actually is being put into regular everyday things now. I see kids wearing these t-shirts with occult symbols all over it. Now you're telling me this means that? Do they know that means this stuff? You know, and so I think it gives people a broader perspective to make a wiser decision as to what this stuff really is, you know, and make their own minds. And some people are being drawn to it, and some people, you know, are being exposed to it and then saying, okay, I don't want to have anything to do with this. And some people are just blind anywhere and don't care. So
because you like me, you know, we've been in this thing for a long time, you know, and you probably longer than me. You know, I got in, we might have talked about this on the last talk, I can't remember, but I got into, you know, conspiracy kind of stuff probably 2006 or whatever, starting with 9/11 kind of things, but that opened up so much, and it was like you were made fun of, you were laughed at, you were that guy. Hey, you really believe a plane that was, you know, you really believe that, you know, whatever theory you went with. But now the weird thing is with those ideas, like, you know, our grandmothers are like conspiracy experts, and QAnon is like conspiracy for the grandmothers. And, you know, Trump's really still the president, you know, these kind of really. And, oh yeah, Trump's, where's Trump at? Well, he's underground freeing the babies right now. Oh, is he? Yeah, he is. Pray, make sure you pray for him, because there's, you know, he's doing what God's called him to do, and these weird theories or whatever. But that everybody is now, you know, privy to, you know, it's out in the open now. But to what you just said, like, it's in the open because their stuff is in the open, you know, and it's like, it doesn't mean that all that stuff is right, but it means that people know that something's not right, you know?
I mean, there's a lot of confirmation bias going on. You know, people want to confirm their own bias, and so they take these things and they, like, you know, create them into what they want to be, and in their hopes and dreams, you know, and the trolls are just keeping them, you know, bringing them along, and they don't know they're just being played like a Pied Piper. So, and this happens on around the world in every belief system. You know, I think there's disinformation and 4D level chess going on of people playing inverted roles and trying to push disinformation by portraying themselves as you know, these big, you know, mega churches and things like that. So it's interesting, man. I mean, you know, I think we do have to have I think it just goes down to the simple belief of treating others as you would want to be treated. You know, I think the gospel is much simpler.
Yeah, well, so that's the thing that gets me, because it's literally gotten me over the years, right? And probably all of us, where that becomes your gospel. You know, and you know people who get into this stuff, and you got to point the finger at thyself first, because I've totally been there. I go, you know, I'm into these things, you know, and I was early with a lot of this stuff, and you were too. Where you go from preaching the gospel to, like, now preaching QAnon conspiracy, right? Or whatever. And this was only for select people back 20 years ago, 10 years ago, right? Because it wasn't everybody. It was, but now, you know, we have whole churches that are patriot churches, and they're just like, I mean, it's seemingly because of the times that we're in, for sure. So you can't knock them, but the fact that becomes their message, like they used to preach the beauty of the cross and how Christ died for the ungodly and how he can change your life, and, you know, just the beauty of the gospel, versus like now they're preaching, you know, aliens or transhumanism and these kind of things, and they're experts, and it literally has become their gospel because it's all they're preaching, you know. And you could just see how, you know, just a little bit of information can really we can become fascinated with stuff that's new too, you know.
Oh, totally. I mean, it's definitely, I mean, I believe these things are the thing that draw people, the subject to draw people in to listen to it. But our foundation, at least my foundation, is always back to the Word of God and the simple
So
gospel message.
you just got to be well rounded, you think, or what?
Well, I mean, we're all sinners, you know. We all fall
Yeah.
short. We all are tempted, and we have our own weaknesses. And but yeah, we just needed to be, just have a relationship with God where we can, recognize those things, or hopefully recognize those things. And some of us have to fall. Some of us, fall and then go back up, or come in waves. And that's life, man. And I think that God allows us sometimes to go through things, failures, in order that we can see things more clearly or be a better witness to people later on. So all these things are part of the journey, and we can't fault people for what part of the journey they're in at the moment in time, because everybody's a different part in that journey. So, and all of us fall short. Nobody's got it figured out right. And if somebody's telling you that this is the exact truth and this is what it, I mean,
I heard a quote. I feel like it was yesterday, where somebody was like the more knowledge and the more people who have done research and the more work and the more older you get, and that you have a lot of knowledge, you're very slow to speak, versus like when it's brand new and it's like, you're an expert on things, or at least you think you are, versus being able to show that wisdom. And it makes it kind of where you're slow to speak. There's so many reasons, though, I think, because you don't want to be wrong. And I know we've maybe stood for things in the past, or lost friendships or whatever on things that really didn't matter, majoring in the minors and those kind of things, and willing to cut ties with people because of stupid doctrinal issues, or maybe they weren't stupid, maybe they were a big deal to you, kind of thing. But just finding tactful, maybe graceful ways to share some of this stuff. But there's an entertainment aspect to it, even with the church stuff. Let's be honest.
Sure.
People, I look at, I just interviewed Bob Larson. He's an entertainer. He's a minister. He's doing a lot of good work. You kind of gotta have both, though. And but like, for some of us purists, we're like, no, you don't need to entertain. You don't need to make it funny or hilarious. It's like, yes, you do. Like, there's storyline, there's pulling people in, there's aesthetics, there's a lot of things that the way that you speak and charisma, you're not gonna watch. There's preachers who can share the gospel, and literally 2 minutes in, I'm weeping like a baby. And there's other people who are sharing the same story, and it just doesn't pull me. It's still emotional, but it's there. Listen to Paul Washer tell his testimony versus other people, and you're like, man, this God is good. You know what I'm saying, kind of thing. So I think that some of that comes along with it. So what would you say about entertainment? Because we were talking about horror movies and aesthetics and stuff,
Well, I'd say the Bible is the greatest story ever written, and almost every great movie and storyline that's out there can be related back to the storyline of the Bible.
Yeah.
And the idea of sacrificing oneself for someone else for the greater good, the idea of putting others first, the idea of the hero's journey, so to speak, that has also been one of the things that kind of been twisted. That's that's the story of all mankind, and God, I think, loves, if you read the Bible, you look at the people that God uses over and over and over, they're all these people with huge weaknesses that have fallen short. They're sinners. They're not these perfect people.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is so interesting about the Bible, and so interesting to us about storylines that relate to that. Something like Breaking Bad, for instance, where it takes this supposed good guy, turns him into this bad guy, but you still want to root for him because deep down he originally wanted to be this good guy. There's all kinds of storylines like that.
Yeah.
That draw us in, and I believe it's because that storyline is written on our hearts. And I believe the pureness and simple message of the gospel message, we know it. We already know it.
With that being said, I'm gonna go far left. Call me heretic, call me whatever. But my studies have been a little strange lately. They're always strange, right? That's what we do. The Bible is strange. Come on, let's start there. But you said these stories that are written on our hearts. So there's I've been seeing people sharing songs or movies, right? We know these movies that are biblical narratives, like Transformers: The Rise of the Fallen, right? Come on, we know what the fallen angels are. We know where they're in chains of darkness and bondage at the bottom of the ocean, and these kind of things. And literally, the rise of the fallen, these spirits come down and animate these transformers, and they come back. It's Enoch, right? It's the Bible,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
and these ancient stories, right? But there, I hear songs and stuff, and now there's people, Christians, who are like saying, "Hey, that's that's the song of the Nephilim," and because it's like we sinned and fell, we fell from our first estate, but Father, will you bring us back home? You know, these kind of, we are the champions, my friend. We'll keep on fighting to the end. There's so many of them. Um, Jared Leto, I've been looking into some of his stuff, and the Kings and Queens of Promise. We were the, we fell and we made Father mad, and but we were the kings and queens of promise. Maybe we were the children of a lesser God, and the age of man is over. Like, there's a lot of weird stuff in there about the gods who were the gods of old. But then something you just said, I've been finding myself commenting on some of those videos, just kind of planting seeds, not thinking that'll take me seriously to go down these rabbit holes, but I've been going down them. That's our song too. There's this notion of me, like, again, about the Nephilim, which would be the children of the gods, right? The children of gods and men that mixed, and that they're still here, bro. From some of my studies recently, like, it really feels like we are the Nephilim, like we are the children of a mixture, because you talk about the sin nature, and we do have a animalistic nature, the nature of an animal, the nature of Adam, of a mortal in us, but also we have, or we have received in Christ to be a son of God. We have become a B'nai Ha Elohim, whether it's through what he did or we were that. There's definitely both natures as a mixture, whether it's the Anunnaki stuff of mixing the DNA, or literally who these people in the Bible were that we are the descendants from continued to mix. I mean, they continued to address fornication and mixing, or mingling, from Genesis to Revelation. Really, it never stops. We're like Genesis 6, the flood. Yeah, there was a King Og, and these guys, man, they kept having sex. Like, they kept on and on and on and on, all the way to the end of, like, the Old Testament. You're getting entire chapters of Ezekiel and entire chapters of Nehemiah about the mixture and what we're going to do with these mixed beings. And that's what I said about giving entrance into Solomon's temple and these things. And the more study I'm doing, it's like, hold on, I think we are some kind of descendants, or we're some kind of connected to the God particle of Yahweh Elohim, and an animal, and a beast, or an Adam, or a god in Adam, or whatever, because there were so many intermixing and those things. Throwing that out there, I know it sounds crazy. I've heard people say, we're the fallen angels, man. We fell from grace and we're here. Maybe the descendants, but what does that sound like to you? I know many Christians aren't willing to have that talk because we've only studied it from a certain place, but what would you say to that?
Well, it's an interesting concept. I mean, I know that there's definitely these universal overlaps. It's like, to me, everything that, going back to the pre-flood world, my belief system, what they were trying to do is corrupt the bloodline of the Messiah, first off, because knowing that these were fallen angels, they had access to the word of God. They knew prophecy inside and out. They knew that Christ, or the Messiah, was going to come from the pure bloodline of Adam. He was the second Adam, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And so in their mind, if they could corrupt that bloodline completely of Adam, then they could keep the Messiah from coming and returning and defeating, all sin, and bringing us back to a relationship with our Creator. And to me, everything that some of these New Age or occult, or even the Luciferian type of ideas, are things that, God is already promising. God promises, people want to be evolved and become this root race, or become like gods. Well, God promises that we will become like Adam was originally in the garden, which is basically like a perfected human. And we will have, not that makes us gods, but we will be sons of God. We will be sons of God. And through the Holy Spirit that indwells with us, we're like halfway there, I believe. You know, we don't make it until we die. We don't actually given that new body of light until we die, but we're given that promise, and we're given that hope of salvation through Christ because he rose again. We know that to be true. And all the things that the fallen or the occult promises are things that God is already promising, you know, that he's going to bring you back to a relationship with your creator. And, you know, but the Nephilim, I believe the difference with them is, you know, each person, each soul was written in the book of life before creation. And that these entities, because they don't come from a male father or a human father written in the book, they aren't written in the book of life. There's no way to offer them salvation. And it's kind of a foreshadowing of the mark of the beast as well. There's something about the mark of the beast in the end, isn't that we won't be saved. It's we can't be saved because we literally will become non-human in some way. Our DNA, I believe, will be manipulated to a point where we can't be recognized as that soul that was written in the book of life. And if you're, you know, that soul is written in the book of life, has been changed, manipulated to something completely different, how can it then be granted access, you know? So
all right, well, let me ask you this. So who are we? So here's the thing. With all the studying, you're like, who are me? Who am I? Who are we? I'm not a fallen angel, brother. You know, those kind of things. And because if the idea of the Nephilim and the fallen angels were to pollute the bloodline of Christ, that would mean it was like a very rare bloodline that scarcely made it through.
Well, not necessarily in the beginning. In the beginning, it was just Noah or just Adam, his offspring, then to Noah. I mean, there was only a few thousand years that passed there, and they knew the direct bloodline lineage from Adam all the way to Noah. And the Bible actually gives that lineage step, you know, word by word.
I get that. Like, I would say that would be Christ, right? That would be his lineage that was pure, that didn't mix, and those things, which we would say, I would say, the sons of Seth, right, versus the sons of Cain, right? Because there were two seeds. There was a serpent seed, and that's you know, definitely indicative of Cain, of the left-hand path, of the you know, the children of disobedience, the children of the devil, if you will. I mean, that's what Jesus called the Pharisees. They say, you're just like your father. He was a liar and he was a murderer from the beginning. These kind of things, right? So Jesus, and they actually bring up fornication. They say, wait, we're children of Abraham. No, you're not, because I've been showing you and telling you the truth and showing you love, and you guys are plotting to kill me. You're a murderer just like your father. If you were of Abraham, you would hear my words and you would resonate just like all of these other sick people around here who heard my words, and it sparked something within them. They resonated, right? So I'm just showing two seeds there. But Christ was pure. He was the only one that wasn't contaminated, even with sin, right? Because he was sinless, right? But with Christ being perfected, then who are we? Like, do you think that we were just pure mortals as well? Because again, it's like this idea that I don't know too many people teaching about, like, we have some mixture of that genetic in us. We totally have an animal in us for sure. And we have to choose. We have Esau, which was a hairy beast. And then you have Jacob, who wrestled with God at Peniel. He wrestled with God, and he was like, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? Can I go here? And obviously Esau represents instant gratification. I'm hungry. Give me, I want it now. I don't want to wait for my blessing. I want yours, kind of thing. And those natures are in us, whether it was put in us or it's just human nature and divine nature, whatever you want to put it. We can go so many routes, but who are we? Are we purebred too? Are we pure mortals? Or you think, is there a possibility that we could have been tampered with by?
I don't know. I mean, it's definitely possible there could be Nephilim DNA still around. And I mean, you wonder, well, how are they going to bring this mark of the beast around? Well, they're somehow going to access this or create it or something. How did you know, going back to the time of Nimrod after the flood, he supposedly did this same thing, turned himself into a Nephilim, you know? Yeah. And then we have these accounts of giants after the flood. So we know that after the flood, that these, in the Bible says they fell during the days of Jared and also after. So it tells us, that these entities and these fallen angels possibly continued to fall, continue to interbreed with men, but maybe not on the same level as they were doing pre-flood. So, there could be, people talk about the serpent seed, and there's a bunch of people out there that are lizard people or whatever. I mean, I don't have any information that I've found that can truly back that up, but I truly believe the serpent energy is a thing. I mean, the serpent comes up time and time and time again, regardless of culture, universal.
Yeah, definitely fascination, right?
Yeah, and what it represents, and it represents both pure knowledge, and it also can represent pure evil. It can represent healing, all these different mixtures of things, so you can see how it can be, people can grab these things and turn it into whatever they want. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, to be honest,
Yeah, I didn't know if you had ever studied that, or just how far out it sounds, or
yeah, I mean, I think there's could be, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, when Jesus does talk to the Pharisees there and says, "You have your father the devil," their first response is, they say, "This is what got me." It says, "No, we are not of the fornication." Wait. We're not of the mixture. We are not those. We're not mixed with that seed. And it's like, wow, that was an interesting take that never had stuck out to me before. Then we know the theories of Anunnaki and those things, where humans that were maybe created to be, or at least a type of human, right, or a type of being that were created to be a worker, now have been altered with a god. So now, whether it's through sex or genetic manipulation, which are most of these ancient stories of the gods, we have some kind of similar deal going on. So yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on it, because I'm really invested in this right now, and I don't know who to talk to. Most of my Christian friends, you got to kind of go to Gnostics, or you got to go to, it's just like anything else with third eye. I couldn't go to Christians because third eye is demonic. So this conversation, I'm like, some really interesting things about this mixture, because the entire Bible is full of mingling and creating strangers, if you will.
Yeah, I think a good guy to ask on that, if you can get in contact with him, would be Michael Heiser. He's a theologian and also understands all these different languages.
Yeah, so but he's still kind of married to a narrative, it's that kind of thing.
Yeah, he is. Michael Heiser
divorced from it and just be like, well, maybe that's all I'm asking.
He may have good insight on it, though. I mean, he'd be open to answers. Gary Wayne, maybe somebody else, Chris White, but I don't know. Everybody's gonna have their own take on it, because it's not something you can really grab hold of and show here. It is. So it's
yeah. I think I can, though. That's the thing about the mixture, and I just got to, if it's been revealed to you, like, it's your burden to bring it out.
Yeah,
may not
it
be
just takes
anybody.
time to present it.
Yeah, it's just weird, because we want to have people we can roll ideas off of. Hey, what you think? And well, stay away, brother. And it's always been like that, right? It's not right. No, don't do it. That's not. That's demonic. Don't do it.
That's for fringe Christianity. We're on the fringe. We're walking that line of trying to decipher these things. In my mind, I'm trying to clear the obstacles. Like, there's a lot of obstacles that keep people from that narrow path and get drawn to these different ways. And like I said, I think the gospel is much simpler, and I believe God wants everyone to be saved. I think that's in God's heart, that He would want everyone to be saved if that was possible. But because He is perfect, because He is holy, He cannot allow something that is unholy to be around Him. Otherwise, it defiles His own being. So the way is, how do I make things holy to bring them back to me, the source? And I think the Bible, I believe, is all true stories, but it's also written as a parable at the same time. These stories happen, but they tell such perfect parables of life, like the prodigal son story of the person going away, wanting their inheritance now. I want my inheritance now. He went to his father, and the father gave him his full inheritance, and he went and blew it away, and so was living with pigs in a pigsty. And he thought, well, if I can come back, maybe I'll be a slave. Maybe my father will accept me as a slave at least. And he comes back, and the father welcomes him with open arms, non-judgmental, doesn't care that he's given him, blown his entire wad. And I think that's how God is. God accepts you right where you're at, and he'll change you after the fact. You don't have to do anything or, do some hidden knowledge, know something that's hidden. All you've got to do is ask Jesus, if you're real, reveal yourself to me. I believe in you. I want you in my heart. I want the Holy Spirit in my heart. I want these things revealed, and he will reveal himself in a way that makes sense just to you. So that's my experience.
So good. Yeah. And that's the simplicity of the gospel, man. It's that all, everybody has the ability, to know God, and, even the whole idea of the new covenant, that you wouldn't even have to go and tell somebody about God. What are we in a new covenant now, or are we stepping into that? Is it coming? Most of us would say we're in it now, but one of the prophecies was that it's like, I didn't even have to teach you about God, that all will be able to kind of have that conscious, that the Holy Spirit tugging at your heart, all of humanity. So therefore, obviously, there were, we're not the same as those people we're reading about in the Bible. We know that because the law is written on our heart. I mean, that's part of the new covenant too, right? Like, the law will be written on your heart so that you don't have to go and teach people about God. Like, they'll know when you steal, when you kill, when you commit adultery, when you take something that's not yours, even as a child, if you can think of your earliest memories of any of that stuff, there was this conviction that you had to choose. Yes. Again, the choice, Esau, do it, devil, versus like, no, don't do it. You're going to hurt someone. It doesn't belong to you. You'll get one later. I don't know that the people we're reading about in the Old Testament had that, because like, they had to be told not to kill.
Yeah.
They had to get a law.
They didn't have the Holy Spirit.
Do not kill. Dang it. Really?
It's a different time.
Yeah, so weird. But, this new, creature that we are, right? There's something that's across the board, though. And there's definitely rejuvenation. There's, something that happens whenever we connect with the Holy Spirit as well upon Calvary, and recognizing the atonement made for humanity to win us over, and what caused us to be made right with God and with all creation, really, is the work of Christ. Yeah.
I mean, and I think that's why there's such overlap or such inversions on things like blood, for instance. Blood is the life. The blood of Jesus is what saves us. And then you find these counterfeit versions where they're sacrificing all these, babies or animals, and they have a big fascination with blood too. So it's like, the life is in the blood. How much do we truly understand about all these things? And, it's interesting, man. I mean, and the other thing is, I wanted to show one more story here that I think connects the giants to the pineal gland, just to answer that question real quick, if I can. Let's see if I can pull this up. Put my glasses back on so I can see. This one really blew me away, man, because it kind of connects the dots, so to speak. Okay, you see this food that does away with youth? Okay, so this is an old newspaper story. And in this picture here, it shows, you can't see this picture very well because it's really dark, but it's a picture of the mouth of Moloch. It's a statue here of this guy, and these people are marching into the mouth of Moloch. And it says, victims of Moloch into the open and fiery jaws of the monster representing war. Millions of submissive slaves are meekly advancing, accompanied by the ignorant multitudes and carrying the produce of their labor. You say, what does this have to do with the pineal gland? Okay. The title of this is A Food That Does Away with Youth. Remarkable discoveries about a glands in the brain that may enable science rapidly to turn children into men, chicks into chicks and chickens, calves into cows, to sate war's appetite for men. And it goes on to say, it opens up by saying, one of H.G. Wells' imaginative works, The Food of the Gods, conceived a magic food which made giants into men, animals, and vegetables. Even more remarkable is a scientific discovery just brought to light, the effect of which may not only supply food for the warring nations in a manner never before conceived, but may likewise furnish made-to-order men to fill up the decimated ranks of the contending armies. and then it says here, it goes down, it says, while children who ordinarily would not be old enough to fight for their country for 10 to 15 years may perhaps be developed so expeditiously that they may take an active part in war within a year or two if the conflict lasts that long. So he's literally talking about taking little kids or babies and feeding them pineal glands of other babies and turning them into giants. So basically this guy, Dr. Carey Pratt McCord, what he was doing is taking pineal glands out of animals. So he would take, he did this with chickens, dogs, all kinds of different animals. And he extracted the pineal glands out of baby animals, ground them up into a powder, and then made them into a pill to feed to other animals that then turned them into giants. So this chicken right here and this chicken are the same age. This one was fed on pineal glands and this one was not. And so he's basically saying that we could turn humans into giants by just feeding them baby pineal glands. And it talks about how it has to come from babies. I'm trying to find where that part is where he talks about that they have to come from.
I hear you. Well, maybe we might not want to talk about that too much because with the risk of
it's weird
pulled. But yeah, very, very wild.
But
stuff.
This guy wasn't the only one doing it. There's a number of people doing
this. This is like a regular. What kind of magazine is this? Is what?
This is a newspaper story in a major newspaper like a Washington Post type thing. It's in. Let me see here. And they talk about backward filled children being helped by medicine to feed them pineal glands as well. So they were literally feeding little kids who had mental deficiencies, human pineal glands to try to make them make them smart. And they were also doing, I found all kinds of things where they were literally taking glands out of monkeys and putting them into humans. And
you hear there's always cultures that like eat brains and stuff too,
Yeah, that's what's interesting. So you go back to the whole idea that the Nephilim were cannibalistic, and they started eating humans according to the Bible in the Book of Enoch. And so, could it be possible they were going after the brains, and this is what made them into giants? I don't know. I don't necessarily think that's the truth, but it's just interesting, these overlaps of the pineal gland, giants, the third eye, the Nephilim. It's like, what is going on here? How are these things all connected? And why was science trying to do these things? And it wasn't just science. These people were huge eugenicists. So these people were big into the eugenics movement. And Julian Huxley was one of the people that was pushing this. The Huxley family has always been deeply involved within eugenics, the idea of evolution, and things like that. And they were putting out stories like this one that says, this story says the glands that make us good or bad. And it literally was talking about that depending on your pineal gland will be whether you are a thief or not, and it was talking about how, people with different pineal gland, like blonde and brunette women, were totally different because of their pineal glands and the size of their pineal glands. And if you could take someone's gland out and switch it, then they may be good again. So this picture of a girl stealing something, and it says nothing in the way of tests that might substantiate this hypothesis that the girl's thyroid had made her steal. So it was her thyroid gland that made her steal. So it's just interesting. In the 1920s, when they found out about the glands, that was like they never knew about what the glands did. And when they found out about this thing, it was like the latest, greatest thing. And they were going to keep humans going, and inevitably by just taking the glands out of monkeys and putting it in humans. and this idea that we could just live forever. And it was mostly being generated by the Theosophy movement, the eugenics movement, and now kind of transhumanism, who still to this day want to change our DNA. And going back to the Nephilim, who we knew, and the fallen angels who want to change their DNA. Is this all just coincidence? That these things are all use the same ideas and have the same characters that that they describe? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same story in every culture. I mean, that.
Yeah.
Even all of the myth, all of the gods, very similar. Some of them, crossed over the borders and boundaries of the religions of the Mesopotamian cultures and Egypt and Christianity and it, man, if we only knew, I'm finding so much as well of the Greek gods and the Olympians within the Bible, like in the New Testament, of like it's very strange, like how much of it is hidden, it's woven again, and that's where I'm asking, like again, as far as like, should I share this? Because this is a cult. Nobody knows this. It's going to complicate it. It's going to take away from the simplicity of the gospel, but it's there. I see it. I've got, all you got to do is look up the names of anything noted in the New Testament is a Greek god. And then it's not just the name, but also the story of that god ties into the context that it's being used in the New Testament. Whether it's Paul talking about the Olympians or running the race and achieving the crown and the prize, and I mean, through charity and love and wisdom and Sophia. I mean, some of these things, but every single one of them is talking about the Greek pantheon, and it's just freaking insanity. God, I've never seen this, but it's been there the whole time. But then again, like, do you share this gnosis? Do you share this wisdom and with the babies, baby Christians, kind of thing, and having a public platform and ministry? It's kind of, we talk about it all. We're going to talk about prayer and intimacy and the beauty of the cross, but yeah, we're all going to get deep on some of these things that I think, like you said, some of it draws some of us, and we are led to these things. Do we not share with it open? Because maybe I'm the devil's advocate, bro. That's what I do. I didn't know that was a role in the Catholic Church. The devil's advocate was like a literal role to be like, hold on, well, what about this? Well, what about that? What about this? And it wasn't that I was siding, but I didn't even know that. But the whole idea about, Christians are now teaching occult knowledge, because in this video, I'm going to show you the Illuminati halftime ritual. And I'm going to use their text to show you. And now we're experts on Freemasonry halftime rituals and their symbolism and their occult and all of that. So we're secretly teaching it, that if we didn't, then the masses would have had, be in the dark. They wouldn't know unless the Christians showed you. So with that same thing, should we tell them? Should we bring it out there in public? I guess the same notion would be some of these other things that I'm studying that I'm finding very beautiful within the Bible about the Greek stuff. Should I share it? It definitely complicates it. Now, people question their faith, for sure. They're going to question anything you share. People are going to question their faith. I actually think it's a good thing to have your faith questioned. I mean, somebody who we just lost, Jordan Maxwell, I could be, I did a talk about him, and I questioned my faith, dude, when Zeitgeist came out. I know so many people did. It rocked us because we're students of the Bible and of conspiracy, and to be hit with all of those, things that made us question. But you have to be able to, when the winds blow and the doctrines push you, and don't be moved around. It's not that we're not going to question, not going to roll it, but if our foundation is Christ, that is a solid, sure foundation, and whatsoever is built upon that foundation, I believe is eternal. I believe is lovely, and I believe is a sure, strong foundation. So let everything that can be, will be shaken. Well, I mean, just doubling down on that notion of like, yeah, keep that fallen angel talk to yourself, TruthSeekah. You're going to weird people out. You're going to make people stumble. It's probably wrong. Those kind of things,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it's not everybody.
It's the battle. It's the wrestling. Because I'm not just doing it. I'm wrestling with it. God, what would you say? Am I going to scare people? That's
Yeah,
what the
yeah,
Bible's about. But go ahead.
yeah. I mean, I think it's these tough subjects are always a conflict because will they be edifying is
Yeah.
kind of the question. Will this edify others on their path? Will this help others on their path? And sometimes maybe we could maybe put out a video, not necessarily coming to a conclusion, but just asking the question. I'm not sure about this, and then sometimes that's why I'll present like this pineal gland. I haven't necessarily come to an ultimate conclusion. I'm just kind of like wondering, wow, this is really interesting. I want other people to know about this information
Yeah.
so they can add it to their equation. Maybe they have other information I don't know about that will allow them to come to a conclusion on this. Because I contacted Rick Strassman, who came out with the Spirit Molecule
Yeah.
documentary, and he hadn't heard anything about people eating pineal glands or feeding pineal glands and all this stuff, and he was saying, I don't see how that would work, because he was assuming that they were eating pineal glands to get high on the DMT in the pineal gland, because that's kind of the what they present on the Spirit Molecule is that DMT excretes the pineal gland excretes DMT, dimethyltryptamine. But if you look in deeper, they have found zero evidence of humans having DMT in their pineal gland. They found rats with DMT in their pineal gland, but these rats have way more DMT in other areas of their body, like their lungs and their liver. And nobody talks about all the DMT in those areas. It's just the pineal gland. And the fact of the matter is there's DMT in all kinds of things, but it's not psychoactive if you eat it without a MAO inhibitor that allows it to not be digested. And so that's what he was claiming. It's like, why would somebody eat pineal gland? You just digest it if you don't have an MAO inhibitor. It's not going to get you high. I'm like, that's not the point of this. It's much deeper, spiritual kind of. I just don't think he's privy to that side of
Yeah, that's the
information.
weird thing, man. Like, we're breaking into new ground daily, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we think it's interesting because there are people who have something to add to the conversation that you need, right? For sure. Like most of this is coming through my study and through my prayer, just personal, right? And just talking to God and breaking down words, and then opening up just wild stuff like, oh my God, who do I talk to? Where do I research? And then sometime later I'll find a book or something that was printed in the 1800s or 1700s where it's like, oh yeah, this was a thing that so and so talked about, and it was, they believed it, and maybe their work ended with them, but now it's like kind of coming full circle to pick up that torch and keep running with it. There's that, but even but I can't talk to those people. They're not here no more. Their work is here. I think that, the New Age would call it Akashic. I don't know that that's real. I know that there's a book of life. I do know that energy is eternal, and what somebody carried, and there's precepts in the scriptures about, when a seed goes into the ground and it gives itself up, it breaks and it's released so that it can, many people can eat because that one seed died. Hence Jesus is now, I can teach you all through the Holy Spirit, but while I'm here, I can only deal with you one at a time. So now the information is dispersed, given to whoever is a willing vessel, a privy cup to take it. God is whispering, these mysteries, the secrets of the cosmos, really, in people's ears, and you have to be one who is of noble virtue, of somebody who's faithful with the mysteries, which is tested with your moral standards, is which the elementary initiation into the Bible. Forgiveness. I say elementary, they're very deep and very meaningful, and you never graduate that, right? But it is the way how you handle everything. It's through love and forgiveness and turn the other cheek. All of these principles that Christ really showed us how to walk in, and it's just trying to move it, because you'll think I'll be sharing, information, and even with you, just like I don't think I don't think you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? Like you do from a perspective, but
I don't know completely.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you do, but it's just like you could never go there because of your research almost shows the opposite kind of thing. And how many people, are like that we can't really roll the ideas off of. I'm sure there's things that you know and you've studied that you have to catch yourself about sharing because people are going to think you're freaking insane. You know,
Yeah.
those kind of, but that's how we evolve, you know, the information or really understand. I don't even care about evolving it. I care about understanding what was once there because the Bible is such a beautiful mystery that was you know the true meanings and interpretations for the most part have been lost, at least by the mysteries, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much deepness to the Bible that and hidden things that, you know, even within the Hebrew and the different languages that have, you know, completely so much deeper meaning and dates and that even the spaces between the words have meaning, you know. So
Crazy.
it's like it's very, you know, to wrap your head around all of it is impossible, and that's where faith comes in, of just saying, okay, the part that is overwhelmingly true to me and speaks to my heart, I know is true. I know God has revealed these things to me in such a way that I don't only believe these things, I know these things to be true. So I can rest on that, not just faith, but knowledge that I will be saved. I will be given this new body of light when I do all these things, you know, and this life is just about a journey trying to ask those questions. There's nothing wrong with asking questions, putting information out there, and not even being able to understand it at all. You know, there's nothing wrong with saying, I don't know. I don't get this. I can't wrap my head around it, you know. But I think we got to be willing to at least ask the questions, put it out there, and hope that it maybe will help somebody or somebody else may be able to digest this in a different way and arrive at a better conclusion or higher conclusion. So it's I think it's great to share information. It's great to ask these questions, and you know, we can definitely have that internal struggle and felt like torn between things. So, but that's why I always just go back to the simplicity of God, and like everything else it's interesting, but it's not necessarily beneficial or.
But is it though? I mean, again with something like the third eye, you know, I with that, just opening up that study or whatever, for me I would say, man, 2010, maybe 2009, 2010, of like being in prayer and being able to visualize something, praying for somebody to get healed, praying for somebody for a blessing. There was just I had watched some stuff on the third eye and spirit molecule and other things, and I felt like it helped me. Instead of just praying, hey God, I ask you to do this, like I began to visualize it. As I'm praying, I would see them being healed. I would see them rejoicing and a family restored. I'm not, God, would you restore their family, please? Versus like being able to see it. Father, I speak restoration now, and I can see them hugging their family, and I can see it. I feel like understanding some of these little things like the third eye. Not that I'm an expert or understand it, but I know that as I incorporated it into my practice, it really revolutionized the results that I was seeing. So, I mean, obviously we have to try, right? We have to try some of these things, you know?
Yeah. And you know, it's like, you know, like you brought up Zeitgeist earlier, you know, that was a really interesting video or documentary to me as well, because I was like, man, I'd never heard this stuff before. And so it made me dig into it. It made me investigate these things. And what I found out was really interesting, because I found out that almost every one of these people that was a so-called expert in the Zeitgeist movement was a channeler of some sort. You know, they had actually channeled a lot of these conclusions they had come to, and that people like Ramtha had like 6 different names given in the credits, but it was the same person. and you know, and they had that over and over again.
I never heard experts.
That. Yeah, they were like the same people with different writing names, but it's actually the same person giving these conclusions through channeled information. And the other thing is, to me, it just reemphasizes the gospel message that these entities are counterfeiting exactly what they knew, because they are angels, access to the heavenly realms, access to prophecy, and knowing that God would come born of a virgin, you know, die on the cross, all these things, that then they would counterfeit these things even before it ever happened. That to me isn't that
Yeah.
unbelievable. It's just proves to me that these entities are very patient, and they're very smart and cunning, and they have ways of manipulating their familiar spirits. They can become familiar to us and know our weaknesses, know the different things within what time they're dealing with, and how to present it in a new and unique way that will fool even more people and
reach a new audience.
Yeah,
the thing,
yeah.
it just the stories keep. The stories are the same, like you said. Hero's journey, all these kind of things. They just, the people and places and stuff like that may change. And one of the things that really did help me, I know you got to go, but one of the things that really did help me with Zeitgeist was the Zeitgeist challenge that came out later.
Yeah.
And so people would respond to say, listen, they have a $10,000 reward if you can back these claims up that you guys are making. Because we go to people who are into Egyptology and archaeologists, and these claims that you're making about even their gods like Buddha and Krishna, and like these, they don't hold up. Like these claims that you're trying to say, you're plagiarizing their stuff and changing it. So to hear that came out, Zeitgeist refuted, Zeitgeist challenged and stuff. So that really helped me be like, oh wow, the Egyptologists are saying, these claims are full of crap. We don't believe anything like this kind of thing. So
I tell you, it's a perfect example of confirmation bias. That these people just want to believe this. They'll do this whole documentary and then explode it like this is the most mind-blowing, amazing thing ever. And people just believe that because that's how they present it. But if you actually investigate it, it doesn't have any legs to stand on whatsoever, which is just like hilarious. Man. Presentation.
So, and I always throw this at Jordan Maxwell and his constituents early on. It's like, it's the presentation. It's I say it with a sense of authority and a suit and tie. Or somebody who comes from Britain or the UK. For some reason, they sound smarter than us. And they could share anything in a suit and tie. Hey, wow, this seems real. So.
Well, you wonder why channelers use the same voice. This, Tibetan sounding voice of pure wisdom and talks with the rolling of the R's, and every channeler has the same voice.
Well, it's like in. It's a foreign voice. It doesn't sound like me. Hey, what's up? I'm channeling a being today called so and so. No, you're not. I am channeling. You got to change it up. So
it's hilarious because it's pretty similar.
Enjoyed picking your brain, man, hanging out with you, playing devil's advocate. It's what I do, bro. Nothing but mad love for you, what you're doing, bro.
Absolutely.
And let's do it again. You just got a new video that came out, new music. You got a podcast. Go ahead and let people know where they can check you out, man.
Yeah, definitely come check out our music videos. That's where we're probably most well known is at YouTube/Destiny Lab. We've got dozens and dozens of music videos that talk about the same subjects we talk about tonight, the Nephilim, aliens, all these kinds of things. I do hip hop music. We've been making since the early 2000s, exploring these topics. And then, so you go to destinylab.com. You can check out my music. We've got 5 albums available there. And if you use the code word merch, MERCH, all uppercase, you can get 15% off right now. And I also do a podcast with my brother called Digging for the Truth with Ark and Neo, where we talk about a lot of these same subjects and just dig deep into these things and ask the mind examining questions that demand answers, right?
For sure, man. But it seems like all the questions lead to another question. But hey, that's what we do. That's how we're dedicated. Man, thanks for coming on, brother. Enjoyed it. Let's connect soon. We didn't even really get to go into much about the horror movie stuff we wanted to, but man, we'll do it again.
That's another one. That's another talk. So next time.
Many blessings, bro. Man. Shalom. Peace.
God bless. Later.
Ark from Destiny Lab, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you check out his work. Make sure you check out the first interview that we did together as well. We did one a year ago, and so it's up. You guys can check that out. And his podcast, his music. And for those of you who are, fans of what I do, speaking about spiritual topics, esoteric stuff, all that cool stuff, make sure you check out the music of Destiny Lab as well. Really good brother, man. And he's been in this thing for a long time. So again, give you roses, man. Salute to Ark from Destiny Lab. If anybody has any questions here, last few minutes, I'm going to go ahead and look at the chat here. I see everybody hanging out with us live. We're only on YouTube right now, I believe. Facebook's been amazing, guys. I'm about to have my first video, literally the third eye video with 1 million views. It's about to hit this week. It's going to hit 1 million, maybe today. It's only a couple thousand views away from 1 million. I've gotten so much good feedback with Third Eye in the Bible and just bringing some of these scriptures to light. And it's been really amazing to see the new subscribers, even people who trickle over to YouTube. Facebook's been promoting it. I mean, you know, tens of thousands of people have liked my page, and hundreds of thousands, almost 1 million people have seen the video within a span of like 3 months. So man, shout out to all the new people who are here. Make sure you guys come follow me over there, because I have been spending a lot of time there just trying to figure out the best way to do these podcasts and the algorithms. I know that it's been a little bit more conducive for you know, recording these off air and then editing them a little bit, just in case we say something that's not supposed to be on air, if to hold retention, if there's any audio mishaps, like at the beginning, you know, went live for maybe 2 minutes and you couldn't hear me. All of these little things, when we record these on the back end, it's made it a lot it's a lot more work. When we could put snippets out, we can put highlights at the beginning. Listen, all of that stuff helps to keep retention. So those videos have been performing really well, and my channel's been growing to do that. But I like the live stream hangouts. I like to roll ideas off of the chat, because here I am talking about, I don't know who to roll these ideas off of. Who can I talk to about this stuff? The chat for sure. Patrons, like people who believe in the work and who show up and who support. Like, you guys are open to the conversation. You guys may never have a platform to get on here and teach this stuff, but you can come together in reason and to roll these ideas off of. And so, because I do have it, I want to you know, give those people a voice who don't know how to do this kind of stuff, or too scared to, or don't have the time to, or whatever it is. Because, you know, all of us have a piece of the puzzle. That's exactly what this podcast represents. Everybody bringing their piece to the table and putting it together, and it formulates a picture. And we've been seeing that, and it's been something so simple yet so profound at the same time. And I don't plan on changing it anytime soon. I don't think. But doing the interviews off air has been a little bit more conducive, but a lot more work. Almost need to hire somebody if I'm going to do that, because doing the talk and then going back and editing it and rendering it, and you know, there's a lot to learn. One of the videos I uploaded, this last one that I did with Laura C, that thing was 100 gigabytes that I had to render down and upload. And you know what? I'm killing 2 birds with 1 stone on the live stream. You know, maybe the you know, quality's not as good. Maybe, I don't know. This is how we started, man. And I do enjoy the live streams. But again, with that being said, I've been live streaming on Facebook, just hanging out, not really official like interviews or anything like that. But because Facebook's been promoting my videos, and I'll go live and they'll send it out to thousands of people, where we got, you know, 52, it says 52 people concurrent watching right now. That's more than I've had in the, you know, past months or whatever. But 52 versus like, you know, 2,000-3,000 right after a live stream. Come on, man. This, trying to figure out this stuff is very hard, and needing a team. Had a team at one point, and then, you know, it just is what it is. But that's why we have the chat. That's your people who make it to the end of the podcast, end of the videos, hanging out with you. How long have we been going live today? This is we've been streaming for 1 hour and 34 minutes. So I enjoy these the most, for sure. How many of you saw the live stream that I went live with right before this? There was a live stream that I did right before this, just to practice and sharing it. Who saw that? I saw a couple comments, and let me know who saw that. I made it private because I'm going to edit that. That definitely needs to be edited. So let me know who saw that one. And if not, then you're in for a surprise. So I've been having fun. I'll say that. I've been having fun lately. a lot of fun. We just did our retreat. You know, we do retreats usually quarterly, but I had one and I just put it out there. It was something that I didn't want to overly promote because I hate the fact that when you create something, when you put something out, you have to keep promoting it. Like I can't work on an album, put it out, and just say, okay, whatever. Like I'll share it one time, email this one time, talk about it one time, and that's it. You have to keep doing it like for weeks, you know. And so I just had an album come out in October, but I did with that. I put it out and hey, find it. If you follow me on Spotify, you'll see the music videos here and there, kind of thing. So it was the same thing that I did with the retreat. You know, we planned the retreat. I booked it, and it's been I've shared it once or twice, talked about it once or twice. I haven't even been talking about it on the podcast for real, just because you got to keep talking about it. So I just put it out there, and I sold 2 tickets, and tickets are limited. And I was like, you know what? Whoever's supposed to come, you'll see it, you'll resonate with it, you'll buy a ticket, and I'll see you there. And that's what I did. So shout out to Martin Smith and Stephen the Voice Cook. They came out. We had a great time. Building in the spirit. Martin took a bus from Katy, Texas, I believe it is, and came in and went and picked him up from the bus station. And we had a great time in nature, walking and hiking and eating together, building together in the spirit, and then tapping in. I don't even know how much, most of you know, but I just got a pair of night vision goggles. I've been trying to get those for years. All of the CE5 and UFO guys, like all the big ones, they have night vision goggles, and you can record what you see in them. And so I've always wanted some, and ended up because of my stuff going viral on Facebook, and because of Patreon supporters and all of that, I was able to buy a pair of night vision goggles. And so I got that, and we brought that on the retreat as well. So we went out to do the sky watching, and we did so much breath work, and I reached a new level in breath work that was amazing, scary. You know, it's got to be a little bit scary, right? We want it to shock you a little bit, but I reached the level me and Martin tapped in really deep through the breath, and it was beautiful. Man, my face was vibrating. I've never been that deep. You know, there's always more, right? And so at the end of doing the breath work, and we're worshiping God and playing words, it was just amazing. I love connecting with people like that. And it was good. My whole face was vibrating. My lips were vibrating. My hands were vibrating. And there was noises and sounds and utterances coming out as you would purge and release, these groanings and stuff. And man, it was good. So good. So then we go out to the field, and went out there probably, I think it was around 11 o'clock. Went out there to the field and did some stargazing, and broke out the night vision goggles, and you can see so many stars with it. It's amazing. It was a little bit cloudy, so we're trying to push the clouds, trying to open them up and work with our angels and ask for the stars to be, the clouds to be opened, and it did. They went from cloud coverage to opened it up, and we got to have some good a good view of the stars. And then we're looking at the stars with the night vision, and don't really see anything until we did. So didn't really see anything moving until there was something blinking like in the sky, and I caught it on the night vision, and Steven saw it as well. And then we looked around, and it was in the trees. So this blinking light came down. It was in the tree line around us, and we're like looking at it and saying hello, and we're asking for an encounter, asking for the angels of God to be present and to help us, and with our journey and all that kind of stuff. So we ended up connecting, and all of these lights started shining, and they were doing these weird blinking patterns. They were white lights, and they would change sometimes to a little blue and red, but the flicker was very interesting. It was a solid white light, and I would try to get up close to it, but we couldn't get really close. And Steven was scared of them. Like my buddy Cook, he was scared of it. So he was like a little bit of standoffish or whatever. And me and Martin were like, hello, hi, welcome. You know, we wanted to sit down. We wanted it to, well, we asked for it to take apparition, take a shape, because it was just these lights that showed up. And so we're like, I'm like, let's sit down, Martin, because you gotta listen. That when you're in a sacred moment, man, you gotta be sacred. But so we sat down, and Steven's walking around, and he's like, no, man, I'm just communicating and stuff. And but we're like, can you show up? Can you show up as an apparition? And we're thinking that, you know, it's going to come down and take on another form. I mean, your imagination comes into play as well, right? But as we asked that and we're looking in front of us, I felt something run beside me in this little clear silhouette of a little, probably what seemed to be 3 foot, 3.5 feet in front of us. This little silhouette ran around, and it was dark. And it ran around, and we felt it run behind us. I was like, whoa, what was that? And Martin's like, well, you felt that too? I was like, yeah, dude, I thought I just saw this little silhouette of this little thing, and you could feel the energy run behind you. I was like, oh, wow, that's weird. And we're open to it. You know, we're going to set into it and say hello and kind of make connection. But Steven was scared. He don't like no shadows. And I was like, well, it's not a shadow. It's not, like, shadow beings are one thing. They're scary, right? Like when you wake up and there's a shadow, like a dark black shadow, mist, a fog in your room, there's that. But we were, this thing was clear. It was a little bit different. And, but he wasn't having it. He said, nope, I told it I didn't want to see no apparition. I didn't want to see that. So I was like, well, we didn't. But it was cool. We still had a new experience, a new encounter, and just had a fun time really connecting with each other and having that happen. And, you know, the breath work was amazing for sure. So, you know, I do them, like I said, quarterly, and you just have to pay attention, get on my email list, go visit my website, and you'll see when I do it. I try to promote it, but I just don't want to go overly promoting it every week and every week and every week. But you kind of got to. Maybe that's where our team comes in, you know, because I just like to put it out and give it to your people. Man, I envy that. Man, I want that. I want to have the team to be like, let me work on my stuff. You promote it, you share it, you schedule it, versus me having to not only create it, but then step down to promote it and to come here and to do that and that. That's why you got to have a team. So looking for a team. Anybody who wants to help make clips, snippets, memes, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, all the media platforms. It's a lot of work, and this is what I do, and I'm here to put in the work. But as you see, even doing a podcast that you have to go back and edit and then upload it and then render it and then do all that, it takes a lot of time. I'm sitting on a couple podcasts right now because I still got to edit them and get them out. And I've gotten faster with it, but it still takes time. So with that, man, I hope that that you guys are blessed. I hope that I want to challenge you. You know, I don't necessarily want to shake your faith, but God does. Your faith is built so that it can be tested. And true faith, true belief, true knowing, true gnosis, it can't be pushed around by any wind of doctrine, because you know that you know that you know that you know within your heart of hearts what your truth is and what is real to you. And obviously, even like this conversation today, you don't need anybody to give you their approval nor their opinion. And we want to, we always want to roll ideas off of people, and we want to, that's what the body of Christ does. You know, we need to have people in our circle that we can talk to about this stuff. But sometimes those people aren't there. They have no idea what you're talking about. And so the burden is yours to wrestle, to break it down, to figure it out. Other people have something else that they're wrestling, figuring out, breaking down. And those children of the left hand, the children of the devil, they're not doing any wrestling. They're acting on impulse. They're acting on the beast animalistic nature that is instant gratification. And here we are caught in the tug of war in between the two. It is who we are. It is the battle between the flesh and the spirit, the gross nature of man and the heavenly nature of God, or the gods, or the angels, which is who we are. We're a mixture of the two. We're not all that. We're not all this. We're somewhere in between, and you're here to be tested and to be tried and turn up that fire so that the impurities come out of you. The mixing and the mixture comes out of you. The wood, hay, and the stubble is burnt up, but the impurities are burnt out. When you, as gold that is tried in the fire, as you turn the heat up, the gold begins to heat, and all of the iron, the lead, the aluminum, everything that's in that gold that is not pure rises and comes to the top, and it gets out of there, so that the gold is pure gold, and it could be used and it be placed in the New Jerusalem, if you will, which is the God's temple, the new heavenly spiritual temple that is paved with streets of gold. And all types of other costly, beautiful gems and jewels are in there, which you are as well. They're within you, your spirit, your experiences, everything that which is good that you carry, that you represent, is in that temple as well. So with that, I'm going to say peace and shalom, man. Thank you guys for hanging out. Tina, Caleb, see you guys commenting. Monica, Christy, man, shout out to you guys, man. Randall, good to see everyone in the chat. Tamu, let's see who else we got here. About it here, being commenting here at the end. Jamie, Tyson, Andrew, Nat. Beautiful people, man. God bless you guys, and we'll do it again very soon. Let me know in the comments if you made it this far. Live streams or edits. Live streams or edits. There's channels out there who do really good with their live streams, so maybe it's something that could be promoted through the algorithms and still do good now. But we'll see. Peace, guys. We'll do it again.